By Food Lion, official supermarket of the ACC. By New York Life, with the right guidance, everyone can be good at life. By Coyote Tractor. And by your local Toyota dealers. Toyota, let's go places.
On to the Fort Pitt Bridge over the Monongahela River and to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. As North Carolina and Pittsburgh meet for the 17th time overall. And North Carolina has a 5-1 lead between the teams as members of the Atlantic Coast Conference. Pittsburgh in its 6th season in the ACC. We're here at the Peterson Event Center. Tom Worley, Dan Bonner, and our outstanding Raycom Sports production crew with you for the Tar Heels and the Panthers. Opening tip. Controlled by North Carolina. Quick little pull-up from Williams. May tries to follow, and it ends up with the Panthers. Tony slashing. Couldn't get the angle off the backboard, and May pulled it in.
Don't think it's a bad idea to push the ball up the court, but I think you need to get a better shot than that.
This is White for North Carolina.
And obviously what you have to do is get back, Tom. North Carolina is going to push the ball after misses. They're going to push the ball after makes. They're going to push the ball after timeouts. They're going to push the ball after somebody mops up the floor. They're going to go.
The runner wouldn't fall. And Cam Johnson comes away with it. Over 500 points in his Pittsburgh career for Johnson. Second year in a Tar Heels uniform.
Pitt opens in the man-to-man, and North Carolina presents you with some matchup problems.
Back out to Johnson for three. About the same spot where White hit his three, and it's 6-0 early.
When Johnson can catch the ball in a shooting rhythm, he is extremely dangerous, shooting 50% from out there anyway.
North Carolina as a team, 36% from beyond the arc. That's 4th in the conference. Second chance for the Panthers. And there was some contact and a whistle. Time for the Food Lion starting lineups. And we told you about Cam Johnson, the leading scorer for this team, but also 4th in the conference from beyond the arc. 13 points in the most recent win against Harvard. And then those 3 freshmen for Pittsburgh and their 10-3 record. There's also a senior in there, Jared Wilson Frame. He wears number 4 and averages over 12 points per game. Turnover Panthers. They tried to get it right back. It went out of bounds as Johnson thought he had a steal, but back to North Carolina.
Very alert play by Johnson. You get a look at Jeff Capel. He and his staff have done a great job revitalizing the once proud Pitt program. How long's it been, Tom, since we've seen a crowd like this in the Peterson Event Center?
Expecting a sellout crowd today. Long angular rebound and right to Johnson.
Part of the problem for North Carolina is with their offensive inconsistencies. Kenny Williams just had to shot. That's what Pitt does best. They take the ball and they drive it through the basket. Not a great three-point shooting team, but boy, they can get to the goal.
It's going to be an offensive foul as White is driving and trying to kick it. He did, but picked up the personal foul. The Hall of Famer, Roy Williams, on the bench for the Tar Heels. In his 16th year, 434 wins as the head coach of the Heels. Signed a contract extension in December, Dan, through the 27-28 season. Wilson almost had a three-point play opportunity as Wilson was able to find Chukwuka, who would get free throws. Johnson picked up the foul. Last 7 years for Jeff Capel as an assistant on the bench at Duke with Mike Krzyzewski.
Pitt is a team that does a lot of work at the free throw line. Jeff Capel's guys, it's sort of what Duke did. They have made more free throws this year than their opponents have attempted. And Chukwuka is one of the better free throw shooters. Interestingly, even though he plays inside, that was only free throw number 14 and free throw number 15 this year. There the Panthers trying to apply some pressure. And Xavier Johnson needs to be really careful. He's really pumped up for this game, but he gets called for the foul. Boy, that's just a swat right in front of the official, and that reaction, it's a good thing that Paul Sells was turned around and didn't see it. I think Jeff Capel also just got warned about being out of the coach's box.
Sells is joined by Ted Valentine and Bert Smith, our officiating crew for this afternoon here at the Peterson Event Center. Some rough play underneath the basket. Kenny Williams hit the deck, and a foul is going to be called against Pittsburgh, and it's going to be Chukwuka, his first. Terrell Brown coming in now, Dan.
Brown is the guy who comes in. He and Chukwuka alternate that center position. The problem for Pitt right at the moment is that first foul on Xavier Johnson. They cannot afford to have him in foul trouble.
North Carolina comes in with its 10-3 record, 2-1 away from Chapel Hill, and a win at home on Wednesday against Harvard, 77-57. White the miss. Brown, who just came in, had the board. This is Wilson Frame. He'll launch the three and hit the back iron.
Again, Pitt just an average three-point shooting team, but Jared Wilson Frame is one of their best three-point shooters.
Williams came up short out of the corner.
And he was wide open. That looks like a confidence thing to me.
May got a push from behind. Looked like Wilson Frame. And that's his first.
It's part of the problem when you're playing against North Carolina and they're playing both of those big guys at the same time. Who are you going to match up against Luke May? Now what do we got going on? Ted Valentine talking to Gerald Wilson Frame and Cam Johnson.
Tar Heels started 2 of 3 from the floor, but have missed their last 3 shot opportunities.
If the Tar Heels in this situation, they should look inside to May. Wilson Frame, I don't think can guard him down low.
Johnson driving to the basket.
You have to respect his ability to shoot the three, and so that means he's going to have some driving lanes. Carolina opens into man-to-man as well, Tom.
Johnson playing his 39th game here at the Peterson Event Center, but as we mentioned, first in the visitor's uniform. May will lead the break. Pull it up and come up short.
Now, Cam Johnson played here, but he didn't play with any of these Pitt players. And this is just a situation where he sees Terrell Brown guarding him. Brown is a very effective defender down inside, but out there on the perimeter, he's just not quick enough to guard Cam Johnson.
Johnson, who shoots 52% from the floor and is 10th in the ACC in scoring, just over 16 points per game.
And he presents matchup problems not only because of his shooting ability, but because he's 6'9". Who do you guard him with? Pitt needs to get the ball to the basket. They've been relying too heavily on the three-point shots.
Panthers are 8-1 at home this season. A win last Saturday against Colgate. Getting inside and scoring is Xavier Johnson. He's got 4.
And that's what they do best. You drive the ball to the basket.
Johnson, free path to the rim. May against 2 defenders. And May was fouled. We're tied at 8.
I don't think they can guard him in there. He's just got a size mismatch, and he is such a good player with his back to the basket. The Pitt defense much better this year than last year. They converted to offense.
We're here in Pittsburgh, and time for our Carolina Ford Keys to the game with Dan Bonner.
Well, one of the big keys here for the game is transition. That North Carolina is going to get out in transition, and Pitt has to focus on transition. They got to create transition themselves, prevent North Carolina transition. And for North Carolina, they've got to make the proper decisions. They like to run up and down, and the risk-reward has not always been favorable for North Carolina.
Luke May at the free throw line, 78% of the season for the senior from Huntersville, North Carolina. Xavier Johnson so far in the game, 3 of 4 from the floor. Rest of the team 0 for 4 in field goal attempts. Johnson finds the open man, Brown. May got over defensively. Brown couldn't get it over the rim. Now May needs help. White provides it in the backcourt. Nice soft roll in the basket. Garrison Brooks in his first field goal.
And again, Pitt just does not have the size to match up against the North Carolina size. They might be able to match up against one, but then there's the other two big guys that present problems.
Panthers beat Colgate on Saturday, 68-54 a week ago. Shot 43% in that game.
And here's Luke May. We talked before the game about his passing ability, but that time does a nice job defensively. And here, if you let Brooks catch the ball this close to the basket and you don't come and help, then Brooks can really score close to the goal. He doesn't have a lot of range, but if he catches the ball close to the basket, he can score.
Close to 9 points per game on the season, the average for Brooks. Both teams already with 4 team fouls apiece. Shot clock is down to 7 for a spinning Johnson. He hit the deck. Going to be a foul called on the play as Kenny Williams was also involved for North Carolina.
Kenny Williams dove into the pile and cut the legs out from under Xavier Johnson. Johnson just falls down, and right at the end, Williams dives in and cuts the legs out from under Johnson, and that's a foul.
So Williams now has 2 personal fouls. He will come out of the ball game. Andrew Platek has replaced him, number 3 in Carolina blue.
Impressed so far with the intensity of both teams out there.
7th Woods has picked up that personal foul.
Talked about Kenny Williams. He's missed a couple of shots in this game, but unfortunately for the Tar Heels so far this year, his jump shot has been AWOL.
Just 38% from the floor for Williams this year. This is Johnson against 2 defenders, creating contact and some hard-earned free throws for Xavier Johnson.
You're trying to defend the Pitt Panthers. One of the most important things is to stay in front of Xavier Johnson. That time he gets to the goal, and you can see his strength in there. He was able to absorb the contact and still get the ball up on the rim. And Pitt, as we said, they get to the free throw line a lot. They're already in the bonus, and we've got 14 minutes and 22 seconds still remaining in the first half.
North Carolina committed 3 fouls in 50 seconds. Couple for Johnson at the line. He shoots 84% from the stripe day, and that's tied for 4th best in the conference for Xavier Johnson, the freshman from Woodbridge, Virginia.
He goes to the line a lot. That helps your free throw percentage when your best guy is your most frequent visitor to the free throw line.
And he is their leading scorer with 8 points so far in the first half as we cross the 14-minute threshold.
And Pitt now in a real 2-3 zone, very aggressive 2-3 zone.
May short along the baseline. Platek trying to grab it. It's off of him, out of bounds, and to Pittsburgh.
And that switch to the zone, I think, is an acknowledgement that North Carolina's lineup creates some matchup problems in a man-to-man. Although it's a much smaller, quicker North Carolina lineup right at the moment.
Ellison driving. Fought for the loose ball and is a miss. Ellison, basket and foul in the trance at the old school three-point play.
Ellison he's a great driver, but he's unbelievably aggressive and strong around the basket. Showed you right there, getting his own rebound, and that's the kind of emotion that we've seen from these Pitt players. And not just the Pitt players, these Pitt fans as well.
Only 52% from the line on the season for Ellison. We're all tied at 12. Only regular season meeting between the programs. Little. Johnson the tip. 3 players diving for it. Now 2 more go to the floor. Held ball situation, and the arrow Dan will favor the Panthers.
There were more guys prone than upright on that particular play. The guy with the mop is going to have his hands full. Little, not a great three-point shooter, and we talked about these players really going after it, and you can see it here. One guy after another goes down on the floor.
Brandon Robinson was diving at it for North Carolina. Amongst the group of players, Ellison with the crossover and scoop, well defended by Johnson.
You want to drive to the basket, but you don't want to force it. If you're defended, kick the ball back out, move it around.
Woods controlling. Johnson, catch and release. Cam Johnson.
That was against a defender, but when he is ready to shoot and he gets a perfect pass, and that was a perfect pass, something that North Carolina hasn't done with a lot of frequency, but that ball, they put it right in what you call his shooting pocket. It was ready to go as soon as it hit his hands.
8 points now in the first half for Cam Johnson. Ellison, prone to drive. The tip ends up with 7th. Woods.
That was a close shot, not as an easy shot. Getting it up over that North Carolina size is hard.
Woods was trying to go all the way, and it was blocked by Brown, one of the top shot blockers in the ACC. Wilson framed, and it's sent into the second row along the baseline by Nasir Little.
Well, Little not only slapped the ball out of bounds, but he knocked Brandon Robinson, gave him a pretty good shot too, as they collided coming down. But Little playing more and more minutes as he understands the defensive concepts a little bit better.
12 points and 7 rebounds for Nasir Little, the freshman, in that most recent game. And victory at home against Harvard for North Carolina.
Certainly what he did just there is a defensive concept that you can't really teach. You just run down the court and go up over everybody and block the shot.
In traffic, follows up and good. Tony has it for Pittsburgh.
The drive draws the defense. Nobody's available to block out.
Foul on the attempt. And Robinson will be at the free throw line when we come back.
The most skilled offensive players in the ACC, a catch-and-shoot guy from 3. Very dangerous when he's wide open. But he can also put the ball on the deck and take it to the basket as he shows you here. And from three-point range, he can catch and shoot even under great defensive pressure. Johnson has made all 3 of his shots, 2 of them three-point shots. He scored 8 points, has a couple of rebounds. So pretty good homecoming so far for Cam Johnson.
He's got over 1,000 career points, and 583 of them came while wearing a Pittsburgh uniform for Cam Johnson.
And again with Cam Johnson, he is a local kid. He grew up watching Pitt basketball. He always wanted to go to Pitt. I talked to a lady before the game who told me that Cameron Johnson has lived next door to her since he was a little kid. So a lot of people here to see him.
Brandon Robinson is shooting 3 free throws, fouled on the three-point attempt. But these are only attempts number 8, 9, and 10 on the season for Brandon Robinson, the junior from Douglasville, Georgia.
The numbers not looking very spectacular in this game, but this is generally what happens when you get into conference play. The intensity really ratchets up a couple of notches.
Johnson for 3. Pittsburgh just 31% shooting so far in the first half.
Johnson can make a three-point shot, although the motion looks a little funny, but so far today, the Pitt Panthers haven't been anywhere close from 3.
Robinson was the cutter. Brooks found him, could not finish. McGowan's against 3 defenders, does not get the bounce. Here comes Cam Johnson.
That's too tough a shot.
Robinson, Johnson.
If you're the Panthers, you want to attack the basket, but you also want to get good shot opportunities. Just because you're 2 feet from the basket, if you're shooting over 2'6", 9 guys, that's not a good shot.
Johnson lost it on the way up and gave it back to Cam Johnson.
Case in point.
Now just one of their last 8 for Pittsburgh from the floor, but they get it back on the steal. Wilson frame, teeing up the 3.
And again, not even close. So this is up and down basketball, devoid only of scoring.
A little bit of a choppy stage here in the game in the first half. Just about midway through. Tom Wormy, Dan Bonner, our outstanding Raycom Sports production crew. That's going to be a two-pointer on the shot by Seventh Woods.
Seventh Woods is a guy who is continuing to show improvement. You know, he struggled his first couple years mainly with injuries. But he's a guy with an awful lot of skill. He's an explosive player, and that was a very nice-looking shot.
Woods averaging just over 4 points per game. Into the box score. Shot clock is inside of 10 for the Panthers. Stripped away Robinson. And a 3-on-2 as Little joins the party. North Carolina showing patience until it gets to Cam Johnson.
He was standing on part of the P. That was a deep shot.
His third three-pointer of the game. North Carolina 22-14 after the three by Johnson.
Not enough ball movement for the Pitt Panthers. They're trying to drive everything. That was against the zone. That's hard to do. And then Cam Johnson, literally, he's standing on the little curly cue of the P out there and knocks it down.
So about 24, 25 feet away from the bucket for Cam Johnson. Our coverage of ACC basketball being broadcast on AFN, the American Forces Network. We welcome the men and women of the U.S. Army, Air Force, Navy, Coast Guard, and Marines stationed around the world. So proud to have you with us, and we hope you're enjoying the broadcast. Hall of Famer Roy Williams told us prior to the game he was not worried at all about Cam Johnson coming back into this environment and atmosphere. Cam Johnson has the poise and composure of a player who's experienced a lot of college basketball, both in a Pittsburgh and North Carolina uniform.
North Carolina, as we said, they're in that zone. Pitt did a great job driving through the man-to-man. It'd be much harder to drive through the zone.
It is a 7-0 run for North Carolina.
But the ball has to move.
He'll shoot another three. McGowan's couldn't find the target.
You've got to make that defense collapse so you have a chance. Can't be shooting deep threes as the shot clock is running down.
Pittsburgh is now 0 for 5 from three-point real estate. Davis has picked up the foul for the Panthers. It's a first on Cameron Davis.
And we're in a danger zone of this game for the Pitt Panthers. They are now down by 8 points. It's the largest North Carolina lead, obviously the largest Pitt deficit. Pitt has to dig in defensively. Try to use the defense to create some opportunities for him on offense. Oh heavens.
Johnson backing it up. This time, not quite as successful on the deep three.
But you can certainly understand why he shoots that one, but that he didn't look as ready to me as he has on the previous plays.
So he is now 3 for 4 from beyond the arc. First miss from three-point distance for Cam Johnson.
As Carolina switches back to the man-to-man.
This is Xavier Johnson. He wants three and doesn't get it.
One pass, a couple of dribbles, and a shot is not going to beat this North Carolina defense. You got to move them around.
North Carolina just 57 points in its victory against Harvard at a season low. And they had 5 players in double figures. That is Williams. Third foul against Williams.
We talked about Luke May and what a tough matchup he is, but look at Malik Ellison. Just does a nice job timing that jump. Ellison at 6'6", so May has a couple of inches on him, but that was just a really nice play by Ellison.
Sean May is looking for his first field goal. That a close-in miss from Ellison.
And that was a good shot that time. Ellison, I think, expected more pressure than he got. Got to make that one if you're the Panthers.
A couple times in the first half, Ellison has been able to drive all the way to the rim. Just mentioned May did not have a field goal until right there. Around his defender for 2 and a 10-point lead for North Carolina.
May works very hard to get position, but Cameron Johnson made that play. Defense so focused on him, he was able to find May easily inside. That's an offensive foul.
And that's on Wilson Frame. North Carolina extending the range and extending its lead. Johnson leading the way for Pittsburgh, trailing by 10. Williams told us, Dan, perhaps the biggest win so far this season against Gonzaga in mid-December.
North Carolina has played an extremely difficult schedule, one of the top schedules in the country. And they're playing young people in key positions, so it's not surprising they've had a little bit of inconsistency. And we already showed you that Kenny Williams has not shot the ball as well as he did last year. In fact, Luke May's shooting numbers are down a little bit. And so all of those things have led to a little bit of inconsistency for this Tar Heel team, but you just have to be impressed by their potential.
Even so, May just an eyelash away from averaging a double-double on the season so far. Kobe White for three.
And Pitt is in trouble. They haven't scored since there was 11:58 left on the clock. They've missed their last 6 shots. They're only 2 of their last 14. They got a couple of transition baskets on up their defense early. They got a couple of drives to the basket early, but North Carolina hadn't turned the ball over, and North Carolina's done a better job defending the penetration. Another example right there. That's what we're talking about. 5 for 22 overall. They were able to score driving to the basket because they had to. They haven't been able to make any threes, but now North Carolina is protecting the ball better, being more efficient on offense, so not giving Pitt certain opportunities. And the Panthers can't make anything at the moment.
Is it a 15-2 run? It will stay that way for the moment. Kept alive by North Carolina. It's going to be Pittsburgh ball. It was hard work inside by Little, but came up empty.
Little got stuck with the foul. Remember, the Panthers are in the bonus, so they'll shoot that one. And that's another thing we pointed out, Tom. That Pitt was in the bonus with 14 minutes, 22 seconds left in the first half, but they haven't been able to take advantage of that. I don't think they've made a free throw since that happened.
Ooh. Despite the miss, McGowan's one of the better free throw shooters in the conference, 83% and 6th in the league. He was named the ACC Freshman of the Week last week, the first time a Pittsburgh player has earned that honor in 6 seasons in the ACC.
That's a rarity. McGowan's missing both of them. Those are the first 2 trips to the line for McGowan's, and he generally gets there a lot.
White misses. Johnson got tangled up underneath along with Cameron Davis, and Davis is going to get the foul, his second. Again, the run for North Carolina now is up to 15-2.
We talk a lot about Cameron Johnson and his ability to shoot the 3. But don't forget that Cameron Johnson is 6'9". And he is a pretty good offensive rebounder, averages 5 rebounds overall a game. And he's a tough matchup inside for Cameron Davis, who's given up 4 inches.
Back the other way for the Panthers. Johnson's pass fumbled out of bounds by McGowan's. Sixth turnover for the Panthers.
Not much you can do if you can't catch the ball. That was really good penetration.
Inside of 6 minutes to go here in the first half from Peterson Event Center. May out of the corner, that's a 3.
Boy, they've got some offensive weapons. That's part of the pressure that North Carolina exerts. They're going to score, so you feel the pressure that you have to score.
7 points now for May in his first 3 of the ball game. Panthers 0 points, Dan, in almost 6.5 minutes. Trying to get something here. Well defended on a driving Tony.
And I think well defended describes what's been going on here.
Nasir Little will go to the free throw line.
Luke May is one of the more versatile players in college basketball. He sets up as if he's going to post up, but immediately goes to the corner. And Terrell Brown just is slow getting over there.
Luke May, the legend of the 2017 national championship for North Carolina, which made it all the way to the title game at the ACC tournament a season ago in Brooklyn before losing to Virginia, 71-63.
That's a foul on Little. That's his second. That was a cheapie there. He was trying to get out of the way. You know, if you're going to get a foul, you'd like to get your money's worth.
Dan, I believe you have some expertise in that regard.
As I always tell people, my best categories were personal fouls, turnovers, and had shots blocked.
The former standout at Virginia, Dan Bonner. Honored to be alongside as McGowans gets to the free throw line and snaps the drought with a free throw. First points, Dan, in 6 minutes and 39 seconds for the Panthers.
I think the big key, though, is that North Carolina has been able to play very effectively on the defensive end without fouling, because remember, the Panthers rely heavily on getting to the free throw line and converting, and North Carolina has kept them away from the line after a lot of fouls early in the game.
Panthers have only attempted 9 free throws here in the first half. North Carolina working on a 5-game winning streak in the series, and those free throws ended a 16-0 run for the Tar Heels.
Well, now if you're the Panthers, you just got to play hard and dig yourself out.
Alley-oop up top to Little, and that one was too tall from Black.
That's the right idea, but it's not well executed, and sometimes that's what you see from North Carolina. That's the right pass, and it's open, but even Little can't go up that high. North Carolina back into the zone.
Panthers looking for some offensive traction, and they won't find it here. 15 possessions without a field goal for Pittsburgh. Tar Heels lead the overall series 13-3 and 6-2 against the Panthers as members of the ACC. White angling out and hitting. 8 points now for White. Back to the other end of the floor. And a traveling violation against Johnson.
And Johnson trying to force it. Jeff Capel knows that if his guys are going to be effective, they have to get to the basket. And North Carolina is showing you how to do that. A nice job penetrating in the short jump shot. But the Panthers don't really have a back-to-the-basket guy to whom they can throw it on the inside. Brown and Chukwuka are both sort of finesse players inside. When you're on one of these droughts, what you'd really like is to have some 6'9", 6'10" brute inside. You can just throw him the ball and he'll get you some buckets.
Tar Heels have won 2 in a row, Dan, and 4 of their last 5, and it's White again.
Well, he's feeling it all of a sudden.
Ripping the ropes for a three-pointer. Kobe White averages almost 14 points per game. Wilson frame. North Carolina has a run out. White. Wilson frame deflected the pass. And that deflected it off of White. Pittsburgh basketball. Kobe White lining up that 3 for Carolina. Virginia Tech and NC State have already posted ACC victories as the schedule cranks up this weekend in full today.
The offense has been so bad for Pitt that only 3 Panthers have scored a field goal. 3 Tar Heels have made it 3.
Panthers 0 for 8 from three-point distance. Tony forcing his way to the rim.
Again, another really tough shot. Not a lot of ball movement, a lot of dribbling, trying to penetrate.
Luke May is open for 3. Tap back out to May. Drives it down the lane. Drops it off for Brooks. Foul and basket. Garrison Brooks.
Very frustrating for the Panthers, because here they get a missed shot, but they cannot secure the rebound. And when you're struggling offensively, you've got to do things like secure defensive rebounds. And how about that play by Luke May? How many times do you see a guy driving to the basket and committing a charge, but May got stopped and made the nice little pass?
5 points in the game for Garrison Brooks, who shoots 68% from the stripe on the season, and a sophomore from Lafayette, Alabama.
Brooks has been able to stay out of foul trouble today, which is something he hadn't been able to do recently. Pitt has not scored a field goal since there are 11 minutes and 58 seconds left in this game. That's over 9 minutes of game time.
Luke May has picked up the foul, his second. Here's a message from CPI Security.
All-in-one app from CPI Security, the official security and smart home company of ACC basketball.
Brown at the free throw line for Pittsburgh.
I really need that thing. I can't, with my garage door at home, I can't even get the clicker that goes with the door to open the door.
Dan, you just worry about plowing that driveway when you need to, okay? Because I know you made a new purchase and you're very proud of it. Get that long driveway, you need to clear that snow sometimes. Luckily, we didn't have that problem in our travel here to Pittsburgh. There's no snow on the ground yet here in early January.
North Carolina has done a really good job over this stretch of protecting the basketball. And there's Leaky Black. He's another guy who comes off the bench, who gives North Carolina not only size and athleticism, but he can put the ball in the basket too.
Brown in a congested area.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. You need a big guy who can catch the ball down there in traffic and score. And at this stage of his career, that's not Terrell Brown.
0 for their last 11 field goal attempts for the Panthers. At one point in this first half, we were all tied at 12. Panthers had come back from trailing early, but it's been all North Carolina. Shot clock winding down. That ball did not hit the rim. Attempt by Johnson. With just over 1:30 to go in our first half, and here's McGowan's. He's open for three.
Maybe that'll get McGowan's going. He has looked out of sorts this entire first half. That's his first field goal.
Johnson's got the range, but not the result in that instance. McGowan's trying a little crossover move past Black, and a foul was called. That is on Black.
He got bailed out there because he was losing his balance. But the previous time, he didn't lose his balance. Nice job taking the ball up the court. Pitt hadn't had very many of these transition opportunities. Just gets himself set and knocks it down.
First made three-pointer of the game for Pittsburgh. Coming up on the Hardee's halftime report. Take a look around the conference with Dan Bonner and have some highlights and analysis from the first full Saturday. Should be an awesome season in the ACC.
Tom, and when you talk about scoring in transition, you're not talking about just running down and getting a layup. You're talking about going down and getting a good shot before the defense gets set. And that's exactly what McGowan's was able to do on his three.
So White and McGowan's both hit the court, and McGowan's has assessed the personal, his first.
McGowan's has been quite adept at drawing charges. He's drawn 12 of them already this year, but at that time he was not in legal guarding position, and therefore the blocking foul was assessed against him.
It's going to be Kobe White at the free throw line, his first free throws of the afternoon. 81% on the season for the freshman from Goldsboro, North Carolina. You can understand that bewildered look from some of the Panther players as they trail by 20 and now 21.
White has had a solid first half. He turned it over a couple times early, but since he has come back in the game, he's been really good.
Leads all scorers, Dan, with 13.
Well, here's that zone again.
Whistle on the drive from Tony.
Roy Williams rubbing his forehead over there. One of the reasons you play the zone is to cut down on that dribble penetration, but the last couple of trips, the Panthers have been able to get inside and get to the free throw line.
Leads Tony, the freshman from Huntsville, Alabama. Substitution, Walker Miller. Sophomore into the lineup for Roy Williams.
I showed you before the game the impact that the three freshmen, McGowan's, Johnson, and Tony have on the Pitt offense. And Johnson produced early, but not during this dry spell. And McGowan's and Tony have struggled throughout the game.
Now, Tony had 14 points in that win last Saturday against Colgate for Pittsburgh. Stepping it up in competition today against North Carolina, the number 15 team in the nation. White is open. He'll launch it. Knocked out of bounds, and the ball will belong to the Panthers.
And since Luke May does have 2 personal fouls, Walker Miller is in the ball game for North Carolina for these last few seconds of the first half.
Ellison steps to the bench for the Panthers.
So Brooks is out and May is out.
Panthers went 10.5 minutes, Dan, between field goals during the course of this first half, and that's the reason they trail 43-23 with about a 3-second differential game to shot clock, which is now at 8. Wilson frame. Panthers crash the glass. North Carolina gets it with Johnson, trying to beat the clock. Here's White, who lays it up and in, right in front of the horn. Kobe White, 15 points to lead all scorers in the first half as he goes in for the swooping layup.
Well, they're going to go look at that, but I think the ball was well out of his hand. This is just a great outlet pass, and then Cam Johnson looks up at the clock, knows he has time, and the ball clearly out of White's hands before the clock expires. That was just a really well-executed fast break.
North Carolina outscoring Pittsburgh 30-9 in the last 11 minutes. Halftime straight ahead.
ACC basketball is being brought to you by your local Toyota dealers. Toyota, let's go places.
Dinosaurs in that museum. That was always a fun place to go when you were a kid.
Our first half stats, Dan, are brought to you by Nicoderm.
And the Pitt Panthers, obviously, they shot the ball very poorly. In fact, they only made 1 jump shot in the entire first half. They tried to drive the ball to the basket, but they even had a tough time making contested shots inside. Really good offensive performance for North Carolina after a slow start.
Tar Heels with a 22-point lead, led by as many as 24 points in the first half against Pittsburgh. Brooks was backing down and came up short. Fight for the loose ball and won by Pittsburgh.
I think Brooks is much better if he doesn't have to back down. If he just catches it and makes a move. If he's got a dribble, he's not nearly as effective.
Xavier Johnson blocked by White. Tried the pump fake. White wasn't going for it. Johnson hustles back. Intercepted the pass, but traveled.
White made up his mind what he was going to do with that basketball as he started down the court. Never saw Xavier Johnson coming behind.
North Carolina has won 5 in a row in this series, 13 of the last 15. They played in Chapel Hill last year. It was a win for the Tar Heels as May tried to move it along the baseline. Tony gets the foul for the Panthers, his 3rd.
It's been a tough matchup for Tony today when he's been against Luke May, because May, as we said, so versatile offensively, really puts pressure on a defender.
Teams last played here in Pittsburgh again in February of 2017, and an 85-67 win for the Tar Heels as they take the shot clock down to 7.
Something they don't normally do. Nice pass.
Backdoor cut to White, and the feed from May. 17 points for White. Johnson cut off by the defending of White. Tony is open for 3.
Tony is not a great three-point shooter, and that's the problem we saw for Pitt early in the game. They launched a couple of threes, didn't make them. They were most effective driving the ball to the basket.
Panthers now just 1 of 11 from beyond the 3-point arc. Brooks asserting himself. Second effort from Brooks. Panthers on the run. McGowan's trying to step around the defender, and a foul against the Tar Heels, and Williams back defending.
That's 4 fouls on Kenny Williams. Nice job by Pitt to push the ball, and this is just a play where you don't necessarily have to deny that pass out on the wing with so few seconds left on the shot clock. There were only 2 or 3 seconds left on the clock. That was a mistake by Pittsburgh defensively. North Carolina took advantage.
Free throws 7 and 8 in the game for McGowans as Williams will exit the court.
Been a very frustrating afternoon for Kenny Williams. Has not scored, missed all of his shots. He's got 4 fouls.
Robinson has come onto the court for North Carolina in place of Williams. Tar Heels second in the conference in scoring. They average over 90 points per game, and that's also 5th best in the country. Want to add to the total. Into the game and into the net. Brandon Robinson with a 3-pointer, and he's got 5 in total. That
was a very nice job by White, getting into the lane, being strong enough to power the ball past defenders.
Wilson Frame has 2 for the Panthers. For Robinson, that was just his 6th made 3 of the season for the junior from Douglasville, Georgia, on that last trip down the court for Carolina.
He's wide open thanks to White's penetration.
White is active and driving. Spins off. Back to White. Gets the bounce and hits the deck. Kobe White bouncing all over the court in the second
when you're
half.
active and aggressive, you get rewarded. That time White missed a shot, but the ball came right back to him.
Brooks the board. And the clearance to White. Head up to May. And May cannot get it up on the square, and it ends up with White. 19 points now for White, Dan, well above his season average.
And his speed and athleticism have sort of taken over the game. We talked about his drive to the basket, creating the space for Robinson, and then the effort right here. Takes the hit, but bounces right back up and gets the ball. And even though he gets a caught on his hip, he's still able to get it up to the goal.
7 of 12 from the floor for White, who gets a well-deserved breather on the Carolina bench. Yep. There's May, couldn't finish it off.
Don't often see May miss one like that. That was a perfect entry pass. He had great position.
7 points in the game for May, stolen away by Robinson. Woods. He missed the shot. Now Robinson is down in some discomfort for the moment. May just picked up a foul. His 3rd.
Really good game for White. And as we said, he started slowly.
I don't know if he's going to get to his season high, Dan. 33 points in the game against Texas.
He actually seems to be in a little distress over there on the bench. Talking to the trainer.
That game against the Longhorns, one of the 3 losses this season for North Carolina. Brooks defended it well as Tony was trying to get to the rim. We'll keep it at this end of the floor with 16-13 to go in our second half.
In the previous 13 games, Tony can get that one to the rim, but it's hard to get that to the rim against the size inside of North Carolina. And this is a North Carolina team that's not anywhere as big as they traditionally have been.
Tony, power dribble. On the end line and to Pittsburgh. It was Brandon Robinson who was trying to save it for the Tar Heels.
That wasn't necessarily a matter of North Carolina size. Brandon Robinson blocked that shot, and he's 6'4". They list him at 170 pounds. He just does a great job keeping his hands straight up in the air, not bringing that arm down hard to pick up the foul.
Stripped away by Cam Johnson. Woods. Little finger roll from Woods with some style points on the side as well.
There's that explosiveness. We talked about it for the Panthers. They threw the ball to Terrell Brown on the block, and he couldn't even get a shot off. That gives you some idea of the difficulties they face when they compete against size.
Tony jumper for 2. North Carolina is the top rebounding club in the league when it comes to rebounding margin, and that's May with position and 2.
And with position is the key. May works as hard as anybody in the conference at establishing that quick position. And the key to feeding the post is to throw the ball to the guy at the exact moment that he comes open, and that's exactly what happened.
9 points now for May. Wilson Frame.
Wilson Frame is a guy who can get hot, and they need him to get hot because North Carolina is playing exactly the way they want to play. They force the turnover, get the ball up the court, get an easy and spectacular basket. To see if you can make a game of this.
Well, Wilson Frame just hit a three at the other end, but only the second made three of the game for the Panthers, and that was Woods on the move, and a whistle and foul. It is against Trey McGowens. The national title back in 2015, defeating Wisconsin in the title game in Indianapolis. And he's got a very capable assistant, our former broadcast colleague as well, Jason Capel, who played at North Carolina, while his brother Jeff played collegiately at Duke. Pass into the backcourt. And a foul on the play as McGowens got to the rim. Robinson fouled him. Jason Capel also has head coaching experience, Dan, at Appalachian State for 4 seasons.
Well, the other assistant sitting right next to Jason there is Tim O'Toole. He is a former head coach. He coached at Fairfield, and also on the staff is Milan Brown, who was the head coach at Mount St. Mary's and Holy Cross.
Holy Cross in Worcester, Massachusetts, and the only program in the nation with assistants with head coaching experience.
Well, all the assistants have head coaching experience.
All of them, yep.
And this is, you're talking about coaches. One of the things they have to do is recruit, and local media is full of stories about how there are some important recruits here today to watch the Pitt Panthers.
It's a collision between Johnson and White. Now Johnson able to get back into the fray for the Panthers. This is Cam Johnson at the other end for North Carolina.
You can have all the coaching experience and expertise you want, but you have to have players.
Little. Run down by Brooks and a fresh shot clock.
Little's had a tough game because he got in foul trouble early.
How about the move by Johnson, Dan, right by his defender?
Again, you have to respect his ability to shoot the perimeter shot, but you can't forget that he's 6'9". If he goes by you, he can score easily at the basket.
13 points for Cam Johnson from Moon Township, Pennsylvania. Defender fell down, and Robinson. McGowens right up against Brooks, and a foul on the play.
And the way Cam Johnson started the game, particularly making threes, you thought that he might score 40 today, so he slowed down a little bit. Again, a very good move to the basket. The defense does not come over to help out. But North Carolina has done a good job moving the ball. They've occupied the defenders. If your man's moving around, it's hard to track your man and the ball.
Dan, more ACC action on Wednesday. Starts at 8. You've got Louisville at Pittsburgh or Clemson at Syracuse.
And that is a Louisville team, I think, that has exceeded expectations with the way they've played so far.
First-year head coach Chris Mack also coming to the ACC.
Another really tough game for the Pitt Panthers, but I don't think there's going to be any game on the schedule for Pitt that you can say it's going to be an easy game.
Johnson on the baseline. Wilson framed. Long rebound right back to him. Tried to dribble it in the cluttered area. Robinson got the basketball and a whistle to stop playing a foul.
And just a little bit of frustration on the part of Gerald Wilson Frame. He did not catch that ball cleanly. Therefore, he missed the three-point shot. He was frustrated. Then he couldn't corral the rebound, and as a result, he committed the foul.
So the Panthers take on Louisville on Wednesday, as we showed you. For North Carolina, they play Tuesday at NC State. That'll be their next game.
That'll be an interesting ball game.
Johnson on the cut and curl. 15 points for Cam Johnson in his return to the Peterson Event Center.
You know, the Wolfpack did a great job in a tough environment down in Miami to come away with a road win in the inaugural ACC game of this season.
87-82 that win for NC State against the Kings.
But just as he did to start the game, the offense suddenly has become all about Cam Johnson. He just cuts to the basket, keeps moving without the ball. That's one thing North Carolina has done very well today.
15 points and 3 made threes for Cam Johnson. Black stripped away. Johnson does not have the numerical advantage at all, but he'll go to the rim. 1-on-4. Xavier Johnson.
And it's been a while since he's really been a factor in the game, but it's been a tough game for him. He's a little bit undersized. North Carolina, really good height in their backcourt, and I think that's bothered Johnson. Of course, he's got 10 points. That makes 14 games in a row that he's scored in double figures, and he's the first Pitt freshman to do that.
Nasir Little punishes the rim.
Well, he does some things every once in a while that you say, wow.
Rocking the stanchion all the way to Chapel Hill. Brown misfires. Robinson. May. Unguarded. Uncontested.
That's a nice job by Robinson. He catches the ball, takes it to the basket, draws the defense. All he had to do was get it up on the board, and May was going to tip it in easily because nobody rotated down to defend.
11 points now for Luke May. 13 times this season in double figures and 37 times last year. 47 for his career now. Double figures for May. Ellison trying to beat the shot clock. Can't do it. Gave it to White. Carolina with 3 players in double figures scoring. May got it back. Ball did not hit the rim. No reset on the shot clock. Black shot is a miss. Little and Brown both had a piece of it. It's going to be Pittsburgh basketball.
North Carolina has the ability to do some spectacular things, nobody more so than Nasir Little. Well, again, you're going to have a lot of really close competitive games in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Syracuse is a team that can really guard you. Their big struggle is shooting the ball. But once they get battle going, I think they can do about anything.
Wilson framed behind the line. Ball got stuck for a second. Tony tried to tip it.
Tom, I don't think the ball actually did get stuck for a second, or it would have been a dead ball, but it was a funny looking thing.
Just a brief thud side of the rim.
Right, and unfortunately, that's the way the shooting for the Panthers has gone today. Thuds on the side of the rim, brief or otherwise.
It's a near wedgie there, Dan, on the side of the rim there.
Near, but if you're the official and the ball comes squirting out before you can fill it with air, throw your whistle with air.
McGowan's on the drive. He elevates and creates contact.
Not a lot to be done about that. This is another problem that the Panthers have faced today. They've, for the most part, gotten tough shots. That wasn't quite as tough. McGowan's looked like he was more concerned with play tech than he was with the basket. But Panthers have had a tough time finishing at the goal today.
12 points now for McGowan's.
McGowan's, though, he's gotten to the free throw line.
Certainly has. Playtech, who committed the foul, has now left the lineup for North Carolina. Foul shot number 14 for McGowan's. So he's right near his average of 12.1 per game. This is Little backing down on the block. Davis has the foul for Pittsburgh.
Everybody raves about Little's athleticism, and as well they should. But he's a big kid, 6'6", 220 pounds. You can see he's got very long arms. If he gets the chance to post you up, most of the time he's going to just jump up over you and score.
Here's a message from CPI Security.
Get the best security and smart home solutions all in one app from CPI Security, the official security and smart home company of ACC basketball.
Back to the live action. North Carolina, which led by 22 at halftime, 65-37. Crossing the 10-minute threshold of the second half. Tom Wormy, Dan Bonner, and our outstanding Raycom Sports production crew with you in Pittsburgh. Nifty dribble and layup. McGowan's to the rack.
Just talked about the Panthers having a tough time finishing. McGowan's finished that one.
He's got 14 points. Long rebound to Black. So that's 10 times his season double figures for McGowan's. That was May in deep, and he got fouled.
McGowan's is a guy who's very effective driving the ball to the basket, and that time he's able to get through the defense. One of the very few times that there hasn't been a Tar Heel there to contest the shot.
McGowan's the freshman from Pendleton, South Carolina, with Luke May at the free throw line.
And May is a guy who over the course of his career has really improved his free throw shooting stroke. Makes him so dangerous down on the inside. Panthers trying to guard him with a smaller player. That's a tough task.
May is a 1,000-point scorer for Roy Williams in this North Carolina program out of Huff High School in Cornelius, North Carolina. McGowan's determined to get to the basket again.
That was really good defense by Luke May.
Black. Little tried the offensive glass tap and got bumped.
Sometimes you do your best work if you just sprint down the court, and that's what Nazir Little did. He just got down the court very quickly, got himself to great position on the inside.
There's a timeout on the court. The officials have gathered around the scorer's table in the review area.
I'm not sure what they're looking at. It's possible that we had one of those hook and hold plays on the rebound. Ted Valentine, Bert Smith, and Paul Sells all over there. It's very possible that on that rebound, Little got tangled up. When you say the hook and hold, you wrap your elbow around the other guy's arms, sort of get his arm in the crook of your elbow and pull down. Let's take a look and see if we can see it. Bottom right-hand side of the screen, Little on the inside against Chukwuka. And did he hook him on the arm there and pull the arm down? I'm not sure. But that's what the officials are looking at. That is a point of emphasis this year. The officials have a mandate to try to remove that particular play from the game. And lots of times you get tangled up inside without it being a hook and hold, but the emphasis is on the hook and hold this year, so we'll see what happens.
Luke May with 13 points. He is one of 3 Tar Heels in double figures.
In this case, the officials have decided that it was just a regular foul, a common foul. And Chukwuka has been in foul trouble the entire game. He has not played as many minutes as is his usual.
So it appears that North Carolina will continue its dominance in this series, especially recently against the Panthers. This will be 6 wins in a row in the series.
One of the places where the Panthers really struggle, we've mentioned it a couple times, they do not have a particularly viable inside back to the basket offensive presence among their big guys. When you play a team like North Carolina, you're going to struggle if you don't. Now it helps. You can drive the ball to the basket and throw it to a guy who can dunk it. But that's part of the pieces to the puzzle that Jeff Capel and his staff have to put together.
So you certainly can't fault the effort of the Panthers this afternoon. It appears that they are overmatched, though, against North Carolina, and now Little basket and foul for the Tar Heels.
And it's the North Carolina size that has been as big a factor as anything else. Here, Kenny Williams, he's had a tough game offensively, but a nice pass right there. And again, Nazir Little pretty tough on the inside, and then Cameron Davis driving the ball to the basket, and that's something the Panthers want to do. They haven't been able to do it very much today.
6 points for Little, despite the miss at the free throw line. North Carolina comfortably in front. Xavier Johnson. One bounce, attempted move by Brown.
So your big guy's got to be able to put that one in the basket.
And a layup for Williams at the other end.
Yes, there's defenders there. Yes, they're good players as defenders. But when you get the ball that close to the basket, to the biggest guy you have, he has got to convert that shot.
It's actually a series between the programs goes back to 1941. They met in the NCAA tournament. Pittsburgh won that matchup. 26-20 was the score, Dan, back in 1941.
See, another thing that I think has caused the problem for Xavier Johnson, he's had a tough time getting that three-point shot off. We mentioned his unorthodox motion. Again, the size bothers him.
Johnson earned the free throws and we'll be back after word from your local ACC station.
Has gotten most of his from the free throw line. Kobe White, of course, with a big game. And you look at the Pitt Panthers there, less than 25% shooting, only 4 assists. And of course, it's hard for Jeff Capel's guys to get assists because they only have 12 field goals.
That is way below their season average, Dan, for the Panthers from the floor of 46%.
Of course, you have to admit, and this isn't a criticism, it's just a statement of fact, that North Carolina represents a major step up in competition for the Panthers.
So Johnson now with 12 points for Pittsburgh.
How about Luke May's line? 13 points, 10 assists, or excuse 10 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 blocked shots.
Shot clock to 7, and White nails it.
And that was not only the proper pass, that was the proper pass thrown expertly. Put that ball right in White's hands so he was easily into his shooting motion. Really nice play by Brooks.
22 points for White.
That's now 4 assists for Garrison Brooks as well, Tom.
White also with 4 made three-pointers. A spinning Johnson. White up ahead to May in stride and the layup.
That's a perfect pass, and that was some catch. All made possible by the fact that Luke May runs the court.
May's got 15 points. Johnson right down Broadway for 2.
Brooks elected to stay with his man Brown rather than try to block the shot.
Johnson got tied up by Brown in midair.
North Carolina has been very sharp with their passing today. A couple of good examples here. Brooks gets himself established, finds White, who catches the ball stepping into his shot. And then here, Luke May just runs the court. Great catch, but that ball just got inches over the defender's hands. That was a great pass. So the Tar Heels very sharp in a lot of aspects of their offense today.
Ellison. He got fouled by May, so Ellison's going to the free throw line for the Panthers.
That's now 4 fouls on Luke May. This is a situation where May just doesn't get himself established. You got to understand, Malik Ellison is not a three-point shooter, so you don't run out on him as if he is. You get stopped and you make him shoot the jumper rather than drive by you.
Despite that foul by May.
Ellison coming in is an 11% three-point shooter, so you go out after that guy a little bit more slowly.
On the boards, it's Brooks.
Brooks has been solid today.
He's got 7 points, Dan.
7 rebounds, we mentioned. He's got those 4 assists. He's got a couple of blocked shots. He's got a couple of steals. And he has been a factor defensively even when he hasn't been blocking shots.
This is Johnson, high degree of difficulty.
Case in point right there, although Brooks jumped in from out of bounds and grabbed the ball.
So Johnson and McGowan's the 2 Pittsburgh players in the double figures, each with 14 points. Johnson double teamed on the baseline, needs some help. Luke May tried to tap it to his teammate Woods, out of bounds. It's going to stay with the Panthers.
There's some block out by Luke May. He knew he couldn't grab the rebound himself, and I think Woods was surprised that the ball was coming his way.
So Black comes back into the lineup. Don't forget our games on Wednesday. Louisville at Pittsburgh, Clemson at Syracuse. Syracuse leading by 8 at Notre Dame. And a minute to go in that game. We've got 4:44 to go in our game, and that one is out of bounds.
That's like 8 blocked shots now for North Carolina.
Pittsburgh had 13 blocks in their game against Colgate a week ago. That is school record, as attempted save right near the scorer's table by McGowan's. Couldn't keep it alive. Dan, you mentioned the day for Luke May. 15 points, 11 boards. That's his 5th double-double of the season and 23rd of his career. Turns around and shoots.
And that might be what he does best. That outside jump shot. You talked about that shot he made against Kentucky.
Open man inside, Ellison. So Dan, if you're Jeff Capel across the way on that Pittsburgh bench, what are the things you're looking for here in the closing minutes of this first ACC game?
You want your guys to play hard. You don't want your guys to force things. Obviously, you're not going to come back at this point in the game, but you want to take good shots. You want to play good defense.
First time as a head coach for Jeff Capel in the ACC. Woods on the run after the Ellison basket. It's going to stay with North Carolina.
Basketball is being brought to you by Geico, saving people money for over 75 years. By Food Lion, official supermarket of the ACC. By your local Chevy dealers. And by Lending Tree, official loan shopping partner of the ACC.
The city of Pittsburgh, our hosts on a Saturday in the ACC as we crank up conference play in earnest, and it has been a big-time performance from the Tar Heels. Number 15 in the country. Black driving, tried the other side of the rim unsuccessfully. Ellison, entry, turnaround Brown.
Brown that time caught the ball and made a quick move. That's one of the few times we've seen that from him today. He's held on to the ball and lost it.
It was a sellout crowd on hand today at Peterson Event Center as Brown comes over for the block. First time they've had a sellout since 2016 when Duke was in the house, and Pittsburgh beat the number 15 team Duke in February of 2016. Okay, it's bow time, so that means we're checking the Bojangles fan of the game, and it's the unicorn in the Oakland Zoo, the Bojangles fan of the game.
And I bet that the parents of the unicorn are very happy that he's got that unicorn head on, so they don't see who it is. Part
of the Oakland Zoo. We're in the Oakland neighborhood of Pittsburgh. And normally they might have a lot more to cheer for, but today it's been all North Carolina. I think, Dan, there will be moments this season, certainly, where they'll have a chance to express their pleasure with the team.
I don't think that there's any question about that, because this is a Pitt team that is much improved. And I think it's a credit to North Carolina's performance that they have made a much improved Pitt team look pretty pedestrian.
Although Pittsburgh will now have lost 8 in a row against home-ranked opponents in this building. And that's Brooks on the dunk.
You're not going to beat a team like North Carolina if you don't make any three-point shots. And the Panthers have only made 2. North Carolina's been very efficient offensively. They've turned it over rarely. They've exploited their size advantage very effectively.
Panthers struggled without a victory in ACC play a season ago, but there's McGowan's again, a bright spot this afternoon for the Panthers. Now 17 points for McGowan's. Part of that trio with Johnson and Tony. They all scored 20 or more against New Orleans. First time that had happened in program history, with 3 freshmen going for 20 or more. Ellison gives it off. Davis in the corner got dropped by Little. Overzealous defending from number 5 in Carolina blue will put Davis at the line for 3 shots.
I think if you're Roy Williams, you'd like efficient defending, but you don't really mind overzealous, because one of the things we talked with Roy before the game, and he pointed out that he thought they had to get better defensively. Well, they've been very good defensively today. And he felt like they had to shoot the ball a little bit better, and they have done that today.
Our performance of the game brought to you by your local Chevy dealers. It's Kobe White with his 22 points. And amongst those made field goals for Kobe White, he had 4 made 3-pointers.
Well, the interesting thing for Kobe White is he attempted 15 field goals in the game, Tom, and 10 of those attempts were from beyond the 3-point arc.
Tar Heels start to empty the bench with 1:47 to go in regulation. They're going to improve their record to 11-3, 3-1 away from Chapel Hill. And they've now won 3 in a row and 5 of their last 6 games. Once again, Tuesday they're at NC State.
And that's going to be a very difficult game. It's always tough for North Carolina to play at North Carolina State, but that is a surprising Wolfpack team.
Platek has a 3 to match his jersey number. He's got the steal and the drive.
One of the interesting facets of that North Carolina State game will be how well North Carolina State deals with the size of North Carolina.
North Carolina and North Carolina State split their meetings last season, Dan.
Well, that's a great rivalry. Everybody talks about North Carolina and Duke, and of course that is a fantastic rivalry, but I'm not sure that there's a rivalry in the ACC where it's any more intense in terms of actual dislike, at least among the fan bases, than that one.
That's a 2-point basket for Brown. Carolina went on the road and won at NC State last year, 96-89. Lost in overtime at home to the Wolfpack. So they will rekindle that rivalry. Coming up, Huffman. Shea Rush also in the game. Caleb Ellis is number 25. And number 22, Walker Miller, also in the lineup. KJ Smith, number 32. Here's what Pittsburgh has coming up, Dan.
Unfortunately for the Panthers, there's a lot of numbers there in front of the teams that they're playing. 18-9, 1, and have to go to Syracuse. Never an easy task.
Dribbling display from McGowan's does not yield a whole lot. In fact, he turns it over. If you look at the jumpers, Dan, for Pittsburgh, they made 1 of 17 in the first half and 5 of 18 in the second half on conventional field goal attempts.
North Carolina forced them to do very little except drive the ball. And that's a tough way to go against North Carolina's size.
85-60 the final. Roy Williams has career win 853. Don't forget our next telecast Wednesday at 8. Clemson and Syracuse, or Louisville and Pittsburgh. For Dan Bonner and our outstanding Raycom Sports production crew, I'm Tom Worming. So long from Pittsburgh.